Pittsburgh, streaming all over the world. It's time to talk sports, all sports, and nothing but sports. Well, maybe we'll talk about some other stuff. You know, sometimes we get off track. Sometimes we like to talk about other things, you know, because we're more than just sports, but the Pittsburgh Sports Report on ThreeRiversBroadcasting.com. Now, here's your hosts, Alex and Andrew.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're here for the Pittsburgh Sports Report. Alex.
Andrew.
Andrew.
What's it like being back here, man?
It's good to be back.
Yeah.
It is. It's good to be back. You know, long burning the candle the last
That's for sure, yeah.
the last 24 hours or so. But yeah, listen, we're back Polka Band playing Music Fest. That went real well. So yeah, it was a great time. We were on television across northeastern Pennsylvania, so we had a blast.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, and most of our viewers do know, Alex is also in a band. The Steelworkers, they played a huge festival up in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and I'm not just exaggerating that. There were some massive artists there, Sam Hunt, Darius Rucker. Yep. So this is over 1 million people attend this event.
Yep,
from what I've read.
Million people over 10 days every year, and yeah, we're down at the Polka Tent, and they put it live on Service Electric Cable back in northeastern Pennsylvania, northwestern New Jersey. It's about, I think it's like 300-something thousand households, so it's a pretty decent number.
And you guys had like over 800 people.
We had like 800 people show up across the 2.5 hours we were playing.
That's great.
That was great, but listen, we've we just on to the next one. The next one will be down in September, but yeah, we got some good things going on here. We're going to get everything locked up and ready to go here. The Polish Falcons, our new title sponsor.
Yeah, people can see we're debuting a new set design here, and obviously one of the prominent pieces we have up for today is our Polish flag that we're kicking off our big announcement that we have a new sponsor with the Polish Falcons, who will also be the title sponsor of the Pittsburgh Sports Report.
That's right. They're going to be the title sponsor of the Pittsburgh Sports Report. You can visit them at polishfalcons.org for more information about their nest locations and their policies and things like that. They've been around for over 100 years now and offer a wide variety of life insurance, annuities, and policies along those lines.
Yeah, really good. Me and you are both Polish, but they're not just for Polish people.
No, they're not just for Polish people. No, everybody's welcome down there, and they do athletic events throughout the year as well. They have
a lot of work with the youth.
Yep. Great kids organization as well. They do all the little Polish school and all that stuff. So it's a great organization. Tim Kuzma, we're very happy to be working with him and his team there at the Polish Falcons. I'm going to be going up there tomorrow to Erie. They have their golf tournament kicking off. So we're going to go just get some footage up there over the next 48 hours or so while they're up there, and they'll also be debuting in September a Voice of the Polish Falcons program with us,
cool.
And it's going to be once a month to start.
What's that going to be about?
I think it's going to be mostly about some of their kind of the annuity offerings and the insurance offerings of the Falcons, and then you'll get a little bit more of the news and notes from the different lodges, and they'll bring some folks in from I guess they call them nests. So the different nests. Our closest one here to our studio is down on the south side. So
now, is that more of like obviously I know about the Polish Falcons growing up Polish, but for those of people who don't, it's more of a fraternal organization.
It is,
and people hang out. There's young people that hang out, people of all ages, and they do amazing stuff in the community. When I became a husband and a dad, you really start taking an interest in insurance and all the your financial life and all those things. So we're really excited to have the Polish Falcons with us. It's not just an advertiser for us. It's a relationship that we wanted to have with somebody that can really help people in the community.
It is, and I have a family lineage with the Polish Falcons. My grandparents and my great aunts and uncles and great grandparents were all members of the Polish Falcons back in New Jersey at one of their lodges in New Elizabeth, New Jersey, and they ran polka dances and all kind of stuff. And my grandmothers were in charge of the youth groups and things like that through the church with the Falcons. So my grandfather played for the Falcons soccer team in New Jersey.
Nice.
So it's like, I've got a bit of a legacy there. And even going up to Erie, my great aunt used to go to the bowling tournament.
Yeah,
Falcons used to have.
It's funny you say
I think
that.
They still do have a big bowling tournament up in Erie every year.
Well, it's funny you said that. I was doing a basketball clinic the other day out in Monaca at St. John the Baptist. Beautiful church if you ever get a chance to go out there. But in the gymnasium where the old Catholic school was at, we were walking around, and they had, I don't know if you guys have this in New Jersey, but they had duck pin lanes, which are miniature pins and miniature balls on a bowling lane.
I've seen them once, not in New Jersey.
Yeah.
In Northampton, Pennsylvania, just north of Bethlehem, there's a Hungarian club.
Very
and
cool.
They've
and
got
they still
these
have
little,
a league there,
yeah.
and it's still. I want to say it's an ethnic league that they have out there, like the Falcons,
or whoever it is.
Yeah, but they have it. I mean, it was just super cool to see people still doing the duck pins. It's very Western Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh.
It's like a Pittsburgh
it's a cool
thing. Yeah. No, listen, I'm very excited to be working with them. It's great that they're going to be involved, not just with the polka programming. They're a big sporting organization too, so that's why they asked, when we had sat down, well, what do you have sports-wise? Like, well, you could be the title partner for the Pittsburgh Sports Report. So, we're happy to have them on board, and of course, we'll give them some plugs during our Pittsburgh City League coverage as well. So, we want to thank again the Polish Falcons for joining us here, and I think that's a great way to lead off the show. And I'd like to thank the Kurjovskis for this wonderful flag behind us. So,
thanks to my 3-month-old Sebastian for the studio flag there. But on another note, we are, as you can keep seeing here on Three Rivers Broadcasting, we continue to add to our repertoire of building our station up with different graphics and backdrops, and Alex coming up with big contracts. For those of you that remember, we're now going to be doing work with the Pittsburgh City League, which we're really excited about, with PA Football News, great friends of ours, and we have a really big guest on the show tonight.
We do. Coming up at 8:00 is Coach Steve Sann. He is the director of recruiting at the Air Force Academy out in Colorado. Played there, was an airman for, I believe, about 20 years. He did a full career in the Air Force, and now he's back at his alma mater and has one of the kind of most important jobs, I think, in the whole program. His job is to make sure that they get the right cadets, on campus.
He was a pretty good player too. I checked out his bio.
Yeah. He had the record for receiving yards in a bowl game.
Yeah.
I don't know if he still holds it, but he did. He set the record when he was a player for most receiving yards in a bowl game for Air Force. So he was a very talented player, and clearly his work as a coach has paid off as well, because they have a rock solid program there. He knows how to get these kids into to being cadets. So very excited to have him on at 8:00. We've got some questions out to him already, so we're super excited to have Coach Sann joining us, and want to give a shout out to his daughter Erin, because she's the reason we have this interview. And also to my better half, because without them, this interview doesn't happen. Like if I reached out to this guy randomly, like, "Hey, Coach, you want to come on this thing in Pittsburgh?" He'd probably be like, "Who the hell are these guys? Get away from me!" Like,
I think that's the case for both of us. A lot of things that positively happen, good in our life, has a lot to do with our families and with our significant others.
Networks go a long way. So, we're very excited to have him on. So please tell your friends, tell your neighbors. Check out. We've got a major guest tonight. I think, with all due respect to everybody we've had on, this is probably our highest profile one yet. So I'm looking forward to having him on. We should get moving with the show here, though. We've, wanted to welcome the Falcons and kind of get caught up. But Joey the Truth coming in a little late tonight. So I didn't get to proof Joey.
And you've been out of town, and there's been a lot of stuff happening. So in the Pittsburgh sports world, we're going to get into some of that before we have Coach Sann. But obviously, you can't start out any better than getting the truth on and see what he's talking about. I have a feeling I haven't listened either, so I'm completely have no idea what the truth is going to bring to the table here. But I have a feeling I know what it is, and we'll get into that after the truth.
Let's go for it, Joey the Truth time.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for 5 minutes with the truth.
Hello, everybody. Joey the Truth Wagner with you, folks. Welcome in. Another Wednesday night means another topic on the Pittsburgh Sports Report. And before I get into the meat of what I want to talk about this week, I'll say this. It was really, really, really cool watching all of the Hall of Fame ceremony over the weekend. It was really cool to seeing all of the Steelers go in. Troy Polamalu, Coach Bill Cowher, Alan Faneca, Donnie Shell, and the late Bill Nunn. Congratulations to the Steelers organization on an incredible accomplishment, and also Troy Polamalu's speech was an excellent speech. I think probably one of the best Hall of Fame speeches I've ever listened to be honest with you. Was down to earth and just true to the person that he was. And also a shout out to Peyton Manning getting into the Hall of Fame as well. Loved his speech too, especially the, Tom Brady joke about, when Tom makes his induction speech in the year 2035. With how Tom Brady is, it might sound like fun and games now, but wouldn't be 100% surprised to see Tom Brady still trying to play into his late 40s. But hopefully he is retired well before then. But friends, what I want to talk about is the Hall of Fame game that the Steelers played last Thursday against Dallas. It was the first preseason game of the NFL year. And overall, there was a lot of very encouraging things that I saw in the first preseason game. Number one, pass rusher Alex Highsmith, who's going to be playing opposite TJ Watt this year. Highsmith was a man amongst boys out there, got a sack, and had a couple of other quarterback pressures. He was very, very noticeable on the screen. Secondly, Najee Harris played a couple of drives in the first quarter, and I liked what I saw from him. 4 carries, 18 yards, had a catch out of the backfield, sort of a small sliver into his talents. He looked good. He looked fluid, he looked decisive in his runs, and so far, so good for Najee, and I am looking forward to what he does tomorrow night in preseason game number 2 against the Eagles. But friends, this is what I really wanted to get down to, and I did talk about this a lot during last week's preseason game, and it is the battle for the backup quarterback positions here in Pittsburgh. We all know Ben's the one. That's already settled. And Mason Rudolph has a heavy step on the 2. But there's quite a battle also between Dwayne Haskins and Josh Dobbs, in addition to Mason Rudolph. All 3 backup quarterbacks that the Steelers have, in some shape or form, they're capable. They're all capable quarterbacks. And I know the Steelers would love to keep all of them on the roster. Probably have, Ben, Mason, Dwayne Haskins on the 53-man, try to hide Josh Dobbs onto the practice squad potentially, but all of them have talent. Mason Rudolph, he's fine. He's okay. He's fine. He's not flashy, not mobile, but he's a backup quarterback who can come in and run the offense. He's fine. Dwayne Haskins, you can see the first-round talent in Dwayne Haskins. When you compare his arm to Mason Rudolph's arm, it's not even close. Haskins, every time he lets go of the ball, you see the zip and the velocity in his throws. He has a cannon. And Dobbs played very, very well, played the best out of all of the quarterbacks against Dallas. He looked really good. And everybody, preseason game number 2 is tomorrow night against the Eagles. It's a 7:30 kickoff. I'll be calling the game live. And just as I did last week, what I want to look forward to, again, is how all of these quarterbacks play. Mason Rudolph will be starting again, followed by Dwayne Haskins, I believe, and Josh Dobbs. So the same routine as last week. Again, no Big Ben. But I'm just curious to see how this quarterback room solves itself, because all of them are capable. All of them are capable. Remember, folks, even Josh Dobbs a couple of years back, Steelers got a 5th-round pick for him. So Josh Dobbs has value. All of these guys have value. And as I say, let the cream rise to the top, baby. And we'll find out how that happens on the football field, starting with tomorrow night's game against the Eagles.
All right, there you go. 5 minutes with the truth. And, I think we're going to be starting to get Joey live coming in, because we had talked about this, whether he comes in the studio or joins us on a Zoom.
I get to toot my own horn here. I told you
were right.
I found the truth, and I told you the truth is really good. And I'm not being facetious here. He's a very good young.
This kid's the real deal.
And we also want to get him to do some work with us coming up for live action.
Yeah, absolutely.
With City League coverage. So he does a fantastic job and great takes this week. I did get to watch. I don't know if you watched a little bit of the Hall of Fame.
I didn't
game.
get to watch the Hall of Fame. Any of that when I was home. I was busy.
Yeah,
but.
I mean, I think he's right on. Josh. Here's the thing that I always laugh about. Okay, so you have all these, and this is the beauty of social media. So you have all these know-it-alls that now know everything about sports on Twitter and all this type of stuff, and they're critiquing. Well, Josh Dobbs is playing a bunch of scrubs. I'm like, dude, I don't care if they're 3rd, 4th string. They're in an NFL training camp. They're still some of the best players. These so-called scrubs were probably starters at like Ohio State and Florida State. You have no idea how good anybody who steps on an NFL field is. So whether it's preseason playing against guys that are not starters, or playing against the top guys. At the NFL or NHL, NFL, NBA, MLB level, you have to perform.
Of course.
And I saw a lot of stuff out of Josh Dobbs. He looked great. But, the most popular guy in Pittsburgh is always the backup quarterback.
Of course it is.
So,
because if Ben goes down, somebody's got it. We got to know who this guy is because he's going to be the most important person in Pittsburgh. But, I guess, it's kind of an open competition right now. They're trying to figure that out.
Well, I think they're trying to strike gold with Haskins. He was an elite level player at Ohio State.
Oh yeah.
But he also, when he was at Ohio State, he showed off cannon of an arm, but wasn't really asked to do, run a pro style offense per se. He had elite level wide receivers. He had a cannon of an arm. Let them get out in the open field and throw the ball underneath them, and he did a great job at that. Obviously, when he got to Washington, he had a lot of issues off the field, maturity issues, which I think a lot of guys have at that age, that much money.
It's big pressure.
Big pressure, right? Going to Washington, which hasn't had a great organization over the last couple of years in terms of on-the-field product. So, you're putting a young quarterback in an organization with coaches that are constantly a revolving door and all that. So it wasn't a good situation for him. He is 24 years old now. I want to see the kid get another opportunity.
I think he's good enough to deserve it.
Absolutely.
And he may never be a starter, but he could be a good second string guy, and you never know. Maybe he does as he gets older. 24 quarterbacks can hang around longer than other position players.
Well,
I feel
especially
like
today. I mean,
today
you breathe on Tom Brady, they're throwing a flag. So
exactly. So the quarterback is a protected position where I think that you can mature into it, and I think you have to. I think that there's a lot of expectation from fans that you're going to take the number one pick and he's going to be a quarterback and he's going to magically turn your whole team around just because you took one guy. The franchise quarterback. Well, what about your wide receivers? Well, they're not up to snuff. Well, what about your offensive line? It's old. What about your linebackers? We only have one healthy. Like that. You have to factor that in. So I think
that's a great point.
When a young quarterback gets thrown in the fire and doesn't kind of pan out the first go around, I think it's worth giving them a second shot like this, because as they get older, they can mature, and I think their reads can get better. And I think that
I was laughing. Somebody wrote on Twitter, who was the Steelers' best all-time backup quarterback? You know, my answer was Ben, because remember Ben came in.
Ben was supposed to be the backup.
Yeah, and he ends up. I believe that's when. Who was it? Who was the quarterback that Ben came in for, and he ended up winning like 13 straight games and ended up with Blues. Tommy Maddox.
Tommy Gunn.
Yeah. So, Ben was a great backup quarterback, and then he ended up taking that position. But you bring up a great point. I mean, we in truth was talking about this. I remember I got to work with the Steelers in grad school, and I was fortunate enough to get to cross paths with some of the guys. Troy Polamalu just got into the Hall of Fame, and Brett Kiesel and Hines Ward and some of these guys. People don't realize how fortunate we were to be able to watch those guys in this town at that time.
Yeah.
And, Ben, it's, the last of the Mohicans per se. I think he's the last one left.
Yep.
But when he was there, and this is kind of the knock, and we're going to get into this a little bit. I was talking to one of my friends today about this. TJ Watt is holding out on a contract, and we're gonna talk about that coming up. But for whatever reason, it seemed to me, and I know you're not a Steeler fan, you're from Jersey and stuff, but when you were watching those teams, those guys turned it on at another level when it came to the playoffs. Polamalu, Harrison, Ben.
In those days, I watched the Steelers more than I was watching the Giants and the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure. And in Bethlehem, we had our options in college where we could, because we would get the Eagles, the Steelers, the Giants, the Jets, and the Ravens, depending on which station we went to. Like if we went to to the Fox up.
Well, the Steelers were on a lot of national games.
Remember,
they were always on the Sunday night game.
Even if it was a regional game, if we went to, I think it was either CBS or Fox in Scranton. They had Steelers on, but if you went to the Philadelphia channel, it was the Eagles.
Yeah.
So and that was back before they split off the market.
My point is, TJ Watt's a phenomenal player.
Yeah.
JJ Watt's a phenomenal player. But I was listening to Mark Madden today, who we both love.
I love Mark Madden.
And Madden was saying at the end, I love this line. He said, at the end of of the Watt brothers' careers, they'll have a lot of money and a lot of free Subway, meaning that they haven't won anything.
Right.
And, believe me, I want to see TJ Watt perform. I want to see the Steelers perform well in the play. But TJ Watt doesn't even have a sack in the playoffs yet. The Steelers, I believe they've won 3 playoff games in the past 10 years. So is he the best player at that position? Absolutely. Does he deserve a elite level play for being the best player at that position?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But when it comes when the lights start shining the brightest,
that's where you earn the money.
We have a lot.
Yes, we have much
new
better
lights
lighting
here, which
now,
are looking good here.
Thank you, Myers Management.
When they start shining the brightest, that's when you make that money. That's when you got to perform.
Yep.
That's when you might not win the game, but you as an individual performer, you got to go out there and be lights out. You got to be a lights out performer, and we haven't seen that in the last 10 years with guys on the Steelers.
No, and I think when you made a great point, though, when you look at the last crop of Steelers championships, you had 3 or 4 Hall of Famers on it.
Ben's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Ben's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Troy's a Hall of Famer. Do you think Tomlin, when it's all said and done, is going to be a Hall of Famer?
Yeah,
I would think so.
I mean, if you
so.
forget the fact that they haven't won in a while.
Yeah.
Look at that. If you look at his regular season record, it's going to be hard to keep him out.
Yeah.
A bad year is 8 wins or 9 wins. It's not like there's a 4-12 that gets tossed in there on the regular. It's pretty consistent.
Super Bowl champion.
Yeah.
Went to 2 Super Bowls. Obviously lost to Packers.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got a lot of guys that are on the peripheral. You have let's get back to those Hall of Famers. Ben played with Alan Faneca, Hall of Famer. I think Marquise Pouncey will probably be a Hall of Famer too. Him and Faneca and Dermontti Dawson, probably the top 3 offensive linemen ever to play in the Steelers organization.
Well, and that's it. And you had all these guys together at the same time, and it's what I think drove that 2000s.
Well, then
window.
You had all these guys that were right underneath it.
Yeah.
You had Brett Kiesel.
Mm-hmm.
You had, I don't think Hines Ward was a Hall of Famer, but I think he's as close to a Hall of Famer as you can.
Rock solid career.
Recreated the position as a physical wide receiver who would block, who would, I mean, he was a great player. And I'm not saying good player. I'm saying he was a great player.
He was a great player.
I just don't think he has the stats to get
the votes. No.
But Jerome Bettis, we forgot about Jerome, another Hall of
Famer. Yeah.
And then you have guys like, like him or not, James Harrison was unbelievable.
Another unbelievable
James
player.
Ferrier was unbelievable. So you had some really great supporting cast.
I mean, you're up to almost 10, I think, at that point with the guys you've named off. So that's where in prime time when you get into that playoff season, those are the guys who are going to carry you through. And right now, outside of Ben, is there somebody else on the roster that that is in that level, and do they have it at the depth that they did 15 years ago, where they had? You had 4 guys on offense and 4 guys on defense who were capable of being Hall of Famers.
Well, I think they have talented guys.
Yeah.
Do they have the guys that are hungry? That's the thing. I mean, Antonio Brown is a Hall of Famer. And I don't care what anybody says. He's a Hall of Famer. His stats, he was the most dominant player at his position for a significant amount of time.
Yeah.
Until he got crazy. I mean
Mm-hmm.
But if you remove all the antics away from him, you can't deny how good that guy was as a player. And the Steelers have had a number of guys like that. I think the difference is during those heydays, these guys were completely dialed in on winning football games. And that's what I think that's what they're trying to get back to, is kind of getting rid of some of these side antics and social media antics and stuff, which that didn't exist at that time.
No.
You didn't see Troy tweeting. I mean, it just didn't exist. So I understand this is a new wave and you got to be your own brand ambassador and all that stuff. But, I don't see Tom Brady, tweeting. And I mean, he does his commercials and stuff, but anything that's distracting him from winning football games, he's not usually involved in.
And I think, too, there's been over the existence specifically of this franchise, a mindset or a culture that equals to what I would say like the Yankees had for baseball.
Yes,
where
Steeler way.
It's like, this is our way. This is how we do it. We would sooner take a guy who might be a little less talented but is a hard worker, and we're going to go win more games with the hard worker than we would with the talented guy, because he's going to work harder and we're going to get the result because of it. Just the way the whole organization carried itself. Now, maybe they didn't have the Yankees with their grooming requirements where it's like, Johnny Damon, congratulations, you can't look like Jesus of Nazareth anymore. All of a sudden the beard and the long hair was gone. But because I don't think Troy Polamalu would have been very happy if
I don't think that was going to happen.
If they're like, Troy, we love you. We know you have that TV commercial, but
yeah, that was.
Can you get a number 2 this year?
Yeah, well, especially a cultural thing with the Samoan.
Yeah, you're not going to do that. But I think that those guys were kind of rough and tumble, and they epitomized what you saw in the Steelers in the 60s and 70s and 80s, and those early years of success. It was just kind of a different brand of football.
I agree.
I think they fell into some talented players who came with a lot of baggage.
Yeah.
Especially I'd say in the last 5 years, because they ran through, obviously you ran through a guy like Brown, and then Bell was here and sounded like he brought, his own, ball of wax that was problematic.
Not at first. I think that's what it is. A lot of these guys, after they got a taste of having, hey, success and I can kind of now do what I want, that's when you started seeing the issues.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think then for the Steelers, the idea of trying to almost vet guys who will fit that mold again. And like you said, trying to get back to the way they were, is, maybe they need to do a little more due diligence off the field.
Yeah, I think they are.
I think that's starting to happen.
Three Rivers Broadcasting, Pittsburgh Sports Report, Sports Update. The Riverhounds are leading 2-0 over Miami. Big goal that just happened. Big game for the Hounds.
It is.
The Hounds are hot right now. We've really enjoyed the opportunity to go down and cover them. I want to take a little credit. I mean, I think since we started covering these guys, I mean, they've been on fire.
It's because of us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Listen, we went down there, and since we've gone down there,
I don't think they've lost. I honestly don't think they've lost.
They've taken points. They've taken full points in 6 of 7, and they have a draw.
Yeah.
Like we kick-started this whole thing, baby. That's right.
Yeah. So I mean, great on the Hounds. Looks like they're going to pull this one out again. Miami's usually, you know more about this than
they're
I do,
usually
but they're
tough
usually a
side.
pretty tough team. Yeah,
they are. Next week's going to be a big one. Next Wednesday, they're home against Tampa. And Tampa's the ones kind of holding pace with them for first place right now. That's a 6 o'clock game. Depending on who our guest is, I may or may not be here. I may end up down there.
Okay.
But we'll figure that out as we get closer. But they have, they're off to a good start again today. I watched over the weekend. They beat, they got a good result down in Charleston.
Yeah.
So they just keep kicking along. Listen, I think, and they're going to play 8 games in August. So they're hitting the turn of the season right now. Like their next quarter of the season is in 30 days, and then the last quarter of the season is in like 90 days.
Yep.
So that's that they're in a tough stretch right now where Bob's got to really test his depth in the squad rotation and be able to rest the legs, and this is probably the month where you'll see Kennardo Forbes take a few days off
rightfully so.
If they can pull him off the field,
rightfully so.
But I think again they're off. This always happens with the Riverhounds. The first month of the season is usually really bad.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, the first month of the season with Bob Lilly, they're bringing everybody together. Usually
they
a bunch
usually
of
get young guys.
young
You got
guys.
to buy into the system.
Yeah, and usually road trips to the south in March. So they're training in 25 degrees in Pittsburgh, and then they go to Tampa and it's 90 and humid. But they start to crescendo in the midpoint of the season, and then September comes and they're 9 points clear in first place. And they're kind of holding the same trajectory. So once we hit September, it should be some fun times here.
I agree.
For us going down there. And then we also have to start, now that I'm back here, we got to start getting down to Washington Wild Things.
Wild
games.
Things right now. The game was, I just checked in. They were in Ohio tonight. Game was postponed due to inclement weather. They're going to play 2 tomorrow. And they actually are playing the Lake Erie Crushers. And they have a really strong pitcher going with Ryan Hennon, who's one of the top pitchers in the Frontier League. And I've read his second in the league right now in ERA. So I wouldn't mind us when we go down and see the things.
Pick a night when
I
he's
want to see this young man pitch.
Yeah, I'd love to.
He's, from what I'm hearing, he's a really talented young prospect, and a lot of major league teams have their eye on him.
Well, listen, I'm excited to be going down there, so hopefully next week we'll be able to take in a game that we know when their next homestand comes.
Yeah.
We'll bring everybody down there.
So let's take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit about one of the great announcers in the history of sports, in my opinion, when we're back here on the Three Rivers Broadcasting Pittsburgh Sports Report.
You're listening to the Pittsburgh Sports Report, live on ThreeRiversBroadcasting.com. The new voice of Pittsburgh.
Experts say that the most important time in a young child's life is elementary school, and the lessons they learn from kindergarten through 8th grade form the foundation for the rest of their lives. That's where Mother of Mercy Academy excels. For over 70 years, Mother of Mercy has provided a faith-based Catholic education to children in the South Hills. They offer an advanced curriculum, active arts, and full sports program with a Christ-centered experience. Mother of Mercy focuses on molding young minds intellectually, physically, and spiritually. Their goal is for children to become well-rounded individuals who are prepared for the next steps in life. Mother of Mercy Academy is located at the St. Gabriel campus, 5200 Greenridge Drive in the Baldwin section of Pittsburgh. They currently have an open enrollment period and can be reached at 412-882-3353. That's 412-882-3353. Mother of Mercy Academy, for faith, for family, for life.
Carnegie Ironworks is Pittsburgh's go-to for artistic, unique, and decorative steel and iron designs. We provide custom fencing, interior and exterior railings, outdoor fire pits, window coverings, and much more. If you can think of it, we can fabricate it. Find us on the web at www.carnegieiron.com. That's Carnegie Ironworks, for when you need it for 500 years.
You're listening to the Pittsburgh Sports Report, live on ThreeRiversBroadcasting.com. The new voice of Pittsburgh.
All right, we're back here on the Three Rivers Broadcasting Pittsburgh Sports Report. Things went sideways in our break.
Really quick. I mean, it was crazy how that happened. So we said Miami was good. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, just over the break, basically Miami tied the score up 2-2 against the Riverhounds.
2-2 now, Miami and the Riverhounds, and said on Twitter here, this is from the Pittsburgh Riverhounds Twitter, the place has gone quiet.
Oh, I believe it.
That'll do it. Two goals in 60 seconds will quiet
good
things
teams
down.
do that, though. I mean, we've been fortunate to go down and see the Hounds be able to ice a lot of games after they get a lead. When you have teams like Miami that can keep bringing that high power offense, you can't ice them. They're going to just keep going and going.
Win, lose, or draw, there's going to be a very long midfield huddle tonight. I think the fans are going to be waiting about a half an hour for the players tonight. No matter what, even if they pull it out, it's going to be a tongue lashing at midfield. We were there for one of them already.
Yeah, we got
it was about 45 minutes, and we were like, yep.
Yeah, Coach Lilly was definitely not going to be in the mood to be doing a lot of talking after that game, and we weren't going to wait around for the press conference.
No. When they win, it's great to go upstairs.
Right.
When they win ugly, not so great to go upstairs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And on a night like tonight, no one should go upstairs.
Yeah.
Just let like Matt, their press guy, ask the question and then head on out. But got to talk about a major sports happening here in Pittsburgh, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Lang, to me, and I want to just say Pittsburgh, in a lot of ways, I would say him and Doc Emmerich have been the voice of hockey across North America for a long time.
Yeah.
Just unique. I'm not a professional broadcaster. You are.
They're different.
They're different. They were talented, had God-given ability to be able to tell a story and fully encapsulate you while you were listening without even seeing the visual. I a lot of times would prefer to just listen to Mike call the games on the radio without even watching it, just because of how well he could describe what was going on.
They came from a different era of broadcasting. These guys who are 70 plus were the last ones who came from kind of the old school. The guys in their 60s were already like they broke in the 80s. That was they were the first ones to start this whole new school movement. Those guys, there was an interview once with Bob Shepard, who was he was the public address announcer for the Yankees and the Giants. Mm-hmm. And he said, my job, and Bob has passed away for probably 10 years at this point, but he said, there are three things that I have to do as an announcer: be clear, concise, and correct.
Yeah.
And those guys knew how, Doc Emmerich and Mike Lang, there are some others, I think Marv Albert, we were
the
Rangers.
Fortunate. I grew up with Lenny Fratteri here,
Yep.
who was fantastic. But if you think about, and I heard a lot of people talking about this, when Mike came to Pittsburgh, he's from California, got his start in Arizona, didn't know much about hockey, just kind of figured it out as he went. But when he came to Pittsburgh, you had Bob Prince, legendary Hall of Fame announcer for the Pirates, Myron Cope for the Steelers, and Mike.
Yep.
And Mike said, I remember there was an interview I watched, and Mike said, Pittsburgh, he said, I wanted to come to a place with unique personalities and people that kind of did it their way. And you talk about a perfect situation for him to land in.
Yeah, and I don't want to say he didn't, because we used to get the hockey package, so I'd watch, or I'd listen to the Penguins on the radio, things like that over the internet, and I don't want to say that like him and Doc Emmerich didn't do it kind of the boxed up way all the broadcasters do it, because I think they did, but they were able to add their own twist on it that, like you said, it sucked you into the broadcast. And the information that they could relay at the time they could relay it, that's what can't be taught to me. That, when you drop a stat or you drop, something that happened in the game before and it correlates to the game now. It means you did your homework.
Yeah, and I think Mike was one of the people that show you how important it is when you're running a professional sports organization to have people that, we always focus on the athletes and coaches, and rightfully so. But when you're thinking Pittsburgh Penguins hockey, I'm thinking Mario Lemieux, Sidney Crosby, and Mike Lang. Those are the three of the top people that I think of. Badger Bob Johnson obviously was there, but he was such an influential part of Pittsburgh Penguins, and still will be. I mean, Mike's going to still do some stuff with the team, which I was really happy to hear about.
Well, I think it's like how you see Steigerwald's still around with the Penguins. He's not. He may not be flying with the team all 41 away games, but you see him around the organization.
Yeah, I mean, Mike did this for the Penguins for 46 years, and then 4 years, 50 years of broadcasting. So, I heard somebody telling a story. I think it was Edzo on an interview. He was talking about, Mike had done this for so long. He easily could have just showed up at the stadium and announced the game, but to the end of his career, he would show up at morning skate.
Yep.
He'd be talking to the other team's broadcasters. Hey, who's one of your hot guys? He would be listening to the other team. If the Penguins were playing, Phoenix on Saturday, he'd be listening to the Phoenix game on Friday to figure out, okay, what can I learn here? So just the most professional person you could emulate in terms of being a great broadcaster.
Well, and I think that it comes into when you reach the elite level of broadcasting, whether that's news and you're on NBC or Fox or whatever it is, or sports and you're doing ESPN or the Penguins or, some type of major level, the game changes. Like there's a way we do things, but once you hit the elite level, it has to become your life.
Yeah.
If you're going to hold on to that seat, because it's a seat everybody wants.
Right.
Especially, I would say Penguins is one of them. There's probably 5 or 6 franchises where the radio and TV gigs in hockey are really, really
the Red Wings,
coveted.
Rangers.
Red Wings, Rangers, Toronto Maple Leafs, Canadians, Boston.
Yep.
Those kind of the original 6, maybe Chicago, and 1 or 2 other teams that have come into the league since then. I think specifically in Canada, like Edmonton, I think is a coveted job too now. But if you're going to hold on to that seat, you have to do what Mike did. You got to go to morning skate.
What? Pittsburgh's a unique town. I mean, we've always embraced different here.
Yeah.
In comedy, Mike always. I love obviously all his different sayings. Look out, Loretta, and buy Sam a drink and his dog one too. Like stuff like that. That was just unique Mike Lang.
You don't see that anymore too often. I only know of one sports guy our age who drops lines like that. I don't. I know I was trained by a lot of the old school, but I kind of operate in this simple manner when I do games. There's one guy, Mike Ventola, he's back in Allentown. He's the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs announcer, and he comes up with some of these one-liners that I couldn't do this on the fly to make it for my life. And I remember we were doing a basketball game one time, and there's a kid whose last name was Toronto. And this kid pulls up and hits a three-pointer like 6 feet behind the three-point line. And he goes, Toronto from Canada. And I'm like, I was like, that. I'm like, I turned to him, I'm like, that was great.
Yeah, right.
He's like, I don't even know how I did that.
Yeah.
But that's a gift. And a guy like Lang had that where he could come up with these little catchphrases that stuck with the fans.
I've been a big hockey fan, and one of the things that I always used to love about Mike Lang is when a play was developing, he had done it for so long, but when a play was really something special was gonna happen, he would always go, look out. And you knew
something was going to happen.
He could see it happening, like almost like Mario or Sidney could see the play in advance. He had been doing it so long, he knew something special was going to happen. When you heard that look out, you better be close to the radio because there was a big play about to happen. And he just had the gift to be able to do that.
And unfortunately for whoever follows him, the fans are going to hate him.
That
just kind of comes with the territory.
Yes and no. I mean, the Penguins, Mike had slowly been, used to be doing TV.
Right.
Then he went to radio. the last couple of years he hasn't traveled and done the away games.
So
and they've started
yeah.
phasing in Josh Getzoff, who does
Yeah.
a really good job, and I think Steve Mears is the other guy. So the fans have gotten used to these guys, and I would be very surprised if I didn't think that Mike also helped these guys
of course.
transition and take them under their wing and all that. So fans have gotten used to and I think we all saw it coming. Mike's 73 years old.
Right, you're not
going to
do
this stuff for
so
so long.
Right? Yeah, and especially in the national level, with the amount of travel involved, and you look at Doc Emmerich, when he left SNY or whatever it was, Sports Network with the Devils to go to the national level job. I think he was about 60, and when he retired, he was probably about the same age, in his early to mid 70s. And I think after a while, when you fly 200 nights in a row across the continent to and live out of a hotel to announce hockey games, it eventually enough's enough. And I don't think he'll be done, like you said. I think you might see him back on television in the studio, where I think it's a little less labor intensive job, where you can, and assuming that Mike continues to be Mike in retirement, even if he does this type of I'm just kind of part time. I come to the home games. He'll still be down at morning skate.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
absolutely.
He'll be at the post-game press conference, and he'll be listening to the Detroit Red Wings, and he'll come prepared just like Steigerwald does, and they'll have their banter. But a great career. Another icon of Pittsburgh broadcasting, and Pittsburgh being one of the birthplaces of radio, and one of for many years one of the hottest radio markets in the country. I think probably through the 70s, when the steel mills went out, a lot of the stations went, at least on the the AM or the small FMs went out with them as those towns kind of fell apart. But in its heyday, I mean, you think about it, Rush Limbaugh was in the Pittsburgh market, and not at a big station. He was down at a tiny little station, and but he was here, and a lot of great people came through here, started here, or even stayed here. And Mike's one of those guys who made a career out of it in professional hockey, and if you had a Pittsburgh Sports Hall of Fame first ballot.
Oh, he's on it, yeah.
Maybe one day does he get into the NHL Hall of Fame and as a broadcaster?
Yeah, he should.
He should.
Yeah, he should.
I think he should. He should be up there. He belongs in the class with Doc Emmerich and Don Cherry up on CBC and with Hockey Night in Canada, and those types of guys belong in there for their contributions off the ice. I think that it's important that not only do you put the players, you put the coaches, but you also have to recognize who some of the top general managers were over the years. You look at a guy like Lou Lamoriello, who built the Devils into becoming a winner in the 90s, probably should be in there. You look at, Mario Lemieux is in as a player. Do you put another plaque up for what he's done to salvage the Penguins as an owner?
That's a really good point.
I don't know if the NHL's ever considered something like that, because I don't think they've ever had this type of situation before, where a Hall of Fame player has come back and said, wait, you're going to move my team to where?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Omaha, Nebraska? Like, no, we're not moving my team. I'll buy it with this group. And the attendance is bad. Don't worry, we'll figure that out. And, does he go in for being kind of a pioneer on the other side, too? You can make the case for it. And, I think if his name ever comes into the conversation, hockey media owes it to Mike Lang to check the box.
Alex, we've got two more things we want to talk about before we get to Coach Steve Sann from the Air Force Academy. First, I want to say that, interesting, the Miami team has taken a 3-2 lead on a Devin Williams goal, and Devin Williams is a Robert Morris University product.
Yes, he is.
Devin, I think, is originally from Kingston, Jamaica.
He is from Kingston.
College soccer at Robert Morris University.
Devin he is from Jamaica.
Nice little homecoming for Devin. Maybe giving the game winner for Miami.
Yeah, I wonder. I wonder if the coaches are up there tonight. I imagine that the Robert Morris guys are probably over there. But hey, listen, we love our Robert Morris guys. We just hope that he doesn't score another one. And that we can pull one back.
That was in the 88th minute.
Boy.
So they're kind of it
Pat
might be iced.
Bad news. Bad news.
So we jinxed them.
The fans can start heading to the exits behind the goal. I don't think you're going to see Canardo Forbes and Alex Dixon tonight.
Yeah, I don't think so.
There might be a talk and then the point to the locker room. But
so one of the things we wanted to talk about, and we're going to do this a little bit backwards. We have that we're going to talk about high school football, but we're going to actually talk about that with Coach tonight because Coach is really breaking in here in Western Pennsylvania, and he's made it a real push to bring the Air Force Academy and start getting guys here out of the WPIAL and out of the City League. So we're excited about that and what the Air Force is doing in their recruitment because obviously they're out in the what I guess you could it's Mountain West. It's not really the Midwest.
Well, they're out they're out there in the Mountain West and trying to be a national program, I think I think that's their goal, at least from what it sounds like, and we'll get into that with Coach Sann in a few minutes. But most of their players come from the Corn Belt out in the Midwest and down in Texas and those mountain states. But they want to, I think they want to try to break into the kind of the Army Navy territory and start fighting for some of the prospects that are at that academic and athletic level. And I think we've got some great questions that we're going to ask him too. And we'll get into it. And he reminded us, remember, you can't ask me about any of our current recruits. I said, no problem, Coach. We won't let you get in trouble with the NCAA.
So speaking as we wrap up before we take a break here, speaking of the Corn Belt, I could probably say I'd put Wisconsin kind of in that general area.
It's like in there, all those dairy farmers.
That's what I was thinking. TJ Watt right now. Interesting conversation going on with TJ. You have, I would say right now he's the best edge rusher in the. He is. He's the best edge rusher.
He's the best
in the NFL. Should have been Defensive Player of the Year last year. Was he? I don't think he was. I think he should have been, but he wasn't.
Was he? I don't know. I will look it up.
Yeah, look that up. But I mean, he should have been if he wasn't. He had a massive season last year, holding out right now for a contract. And from what I've heard is he wants to be the highest paid edge rusher in the NFL, which he deserves because he's the best at the position. But the number is a sticking point right now for the Steelers. And I think they want like 20, he wants like 26 million or something like that. And from what I've been reading is like the Steelers could technically, first off, the Steelers, and you might not know this, the Steelers will not negotiate a contract with a player during the season. They don't do it.
Right.
So if you're not signed going into the season, there's no negotiations. They want the player and their staff and everybody completely focused on the season.
The season, right.
And they'll negotiate with you in the offseason. So what the Steelers could technically do is he's 26 years old. I don't know when he'll be 27. Do you have that up on there?
Let's see. Oh, by the way, Aaron Donald last
year. Aaron Donald
last year.
Another Pitt product and Pittsburgh kid. He'll turn 27 in October, so at the beginning of the season. So he'll be 27 at the beginning of this season. You could put he's still under contract, so it's not like he's not signed. He's under contract, and then the Steelers could franchise tag him for 2 more seasons technically. So they can give him franchise tag till 27, 20. Technically, like he's 29 years old. And then by the time you're 29 years old, do the Steelers say, well, we're happy we didn't give you
the extra money
because your body's breaking down, you're close to 30. And I guess you could look at a guy like Cam Hayward, who is 32 and has been a pillar in the Steelers defense for a long time. But, look at J.J. Watt. He hasn't had a great career in terms of being not injury prone. I mean, he's been very injury prone.
No, and I think you make a good point. You could put the tag on him, and then you get to the end of that, that period of time, and then you can reassess.
Yeah.
And if it's time, to let him go, then that's what you do. So
yeah, and I think that's kind of the things that happen. I want to see JJ or TJ Watt. It's all JJ, TJ, BJ. It's all these J's. But I want to see him in Pittsburgh. I think he's a phenomenal talent. You want to see your players happy, but there's a business to all of this. And, for the Steelers, they're going to do what's best for business for them. And TJ Watt's going to have to accept that.
Well, and you have to be mindful of salary cap and all these other restrictions that come into play because, players are obviously always going to push. Their agents are going to push for more money, but you have to work within a set number.
Right.
And you have to decide, do we want to tie up that much cash on one player?
Yeah.
And hamper ourselves at another position, and do we value him to that level, or do we want to try to meet him in the middle somewhere and see if they'll budge?
Right, I agree. Alex, before we go to our final break, I wanted to give you an opportunity. Obviously, you're our GM, but we have a lot of exciting stuff going on with the Pittsburgh City League for people that are interested in giving back in a lot of ways to the city of Pittsburgh players, because that's in a lot of ways what we're trying to do is we're trying to give these young men the most coverage that we possibly can. So they're up to par with all the big boys in the WPIAL. What are some ways that folks can get involved with us, PA Football News, and the City League?
I think, there are two ways right now that we are trying to work this as we are in the final crunch here in the last 2 weeks before the season for both us and Pennsylvania Football News. Obviously, that is for sponsorships. First and foremost, we are looking for businesses within the city or in Allegheny County who have interest or ties to the Pittsburgh City League. Maybe you're an alumnus, maybe your dad played at Carrick, whatever it is. We would love to be able to work with you. I've been hitting the pavement hard down in the City League territory. I was down on the south side all of last week. This week got kind of thrown for a loop with Music Fest, but I'll be right back down there on Monday. And we're going to just keep moving along.
Yeah, and we have a variety of packages for folks.
Yeah, so they're very affordable.
Right.
And, I think, you want to get in on the ground level right now. As we continue to grow, just like any successful business, rates will increase. So you want to get in with us on this ground floor.
And I'll tell you, a lot of people, we're not just talking about your company being heard during a City League broadcast. We've announced this 2 weeks ago. We are also going to be producing a live studio. We're going to shoot it live, and it'll air on Saturday mornings. But we will be producing a studio wrap-up show of WPIAL and City League football action. Complete TV show. This is a full show. You're going to have your commercials on there. So this is a great opportunity for you to be seen by a lot of people. We've been hovering over 4,000 hits a week on a lot of our things, and we're just going to keep that number going because we're only a 2-month-old station, and we're just getting our name out there. We want you to follow us on Twitter, on Facebook at 3R Broadcasting. We want you to follow our YouTube pages and stuff. But if we're doing that type of numbers in 2 months in, imagine what we're going to be doing when people start really paying attention to our football coverage as well as our music coverage, which you showed over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, listen, we want to start getting into more live coverage of events, and that's, I think, how we drive ourselves forward in the community.
Yep.
And the only way you can do that is to, put in the time and get out and do those. And to get a unique opportunity with the City League is, I think, a major victory for us as a station in its infancy, and then to be able to piggyback that with Billy and Pennsylvania Football News, where we'll be airing the State of Pennsylvania Football, his podcast, his weekly radio show wrap-up of Pennsylvania high school football with us, and then he's going to be promoting our games out over Pennsylvania Football News. I think it's a win-win, and for business owners, you can reach several thousand views a week with us, and that's going to tick up during football season. And you can also couple that with Pennsylvania Football News, a website that got 41 million impressions last year.
Absolutely.
So you're talking a major opportunity to get involved with us here in the Pittsburgh City League.
Yeah, so if you're interested, you can drop Alex a email. I think it's alexf@threeriversbroadcasting.com, or just go on threeriversbroadcasting.com, fill out our contact form.
It'll come to me.
And we'll get back to
Yeah,
you. So we're going to take a quick break here, I think, before we get Coach Steve Sann from the United States Air Force Academy on with us on the Pittsburgh Sports Report on threeriversbroadcasting.com.
Experts life is school and learn from kindergarten through 8th grade for lives. That's a faith-based Catholic education to children in the South Hills. They offer an advanced curriculum, active arts, and full sports program with a Christ-centered experience. Mother of Mercy focuses on molding young minds intellectually, physically, and spiritually. Their goal is for children to become well-rounded individuals who are prepared for the next steps in life. Mother of Mercy Academy is located at the St. Gabriel campus, 5200 Greenridge Drive in the Baldwin section of Pittsburgh. They currently have an open enrollment period and can be reached at 412-882-3353. That's 412-882-3353. Mother of Mercy Academy, for faith, for family, for life.
You're listening to the Pittsburgh Sports Report, live on ThreeRiversBroadcasting.com. The new voice of Pittsburgh.
All right, we are back here on Three Rivers Broadcasting. It is the Pittsburgh Sports Report. Alex Fidrishevsky, Andrew Kurjowski with you here in studio tonight, and we are very, very excited to say hello to our special guest here this evening. I had an opportunity to meet him, I guess it was about a month and a half or so ago, when he was out here to visit his lovely daughter, Erin, and know her through the better half, so connections definitely go a long way. Good evening, Coach Steve Sann from the United States Air Force Academy. How are you today?
Good evening, fellas. How are you guys doing out there in Western PA?
We're doing great.
Yeah, we're doing great. We're really excited to have you on, Coach. And I'm from my uncle served 23 years in the Air Force, retired as a Chief Master Sergeant. So big thanks from both Alex and myself for your service to our country.
Absolutely. That's awesome. No, congrats to that uncle as well. My dad's a retired Senior Master Sergeant.
And, Coach, let's jump right into this here. Give us a little bit of your background as a youth, and what is it that attracted you to the Academy? Because you are kind of like an Academy lifer at this point. So what was it that first attracted you to an appointment with the Air Force Academy?
Golly, guys, in all honesty, it was Division I football. To be honest with you, that's what got my foot in the door. I had a very good senior year playing high school ball in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And Mom said, "Hey, do you mind if I send in your highlights to the Air Force Academy?" I'm like, "Sure, Mom, go ahead." I was playing basketball at the time, and I really didn't know what she was doing, and she knew exactly what she was doing. And lo and behold, the next thing I know, there's a offensive coordinator coming to my high school and saying, "Steve, we want to offer you a scholarship to the Air Force Academy." And I said, "No, Coach, I appreciate it. I'm heading down to Adams State, a small NAIA school in southern Colorado." And I went home and talked to Mom and Dad, and lo and behold, I called the Adams State coach and said, "Coach, I apologize, but I got an offer from Air Force Academy. I think I'm going to go there." And he goes, "Steve, that'll be the best decision you've ever done." And sure enough, it sure has been.
And while you were at the Academy, you had a very successful stint as a student athlete there, and you had some records with the Academy for receiving yards. Can you describe your experience? And I imagine it's very similar to this day, your experience as a student athlete at the Academy.
Sure, Alex. So, I mean, a typical day, and like you said, it really has not changed that much. In all honesty, I think the academics have gotten a little bit tougher, but the military side has gotten a little bit easier. Typical day, you're getting up 5:30, 6 o'clock, heading to breakfast. As an athlete, I was front loaded with classes in the morning. So typically I was taking 2 to 3 classes in the morning. Semester hour wise, I started off with 16 and a half, and then it kind of went up from there. I was in the 21. I think the most I had in a semester was 22 and a half. Because it's kind of 4 years or 5 years of education into 4. We just really, really accelerate it. You go to lunch, and then pretty much in the afternoon, you're playing football. So you come down, do position meetings, get a quick lift in. You're on the field for practice, a little post-game stretch, get in the cold tubs, and then, you head to dinner. And then my typical routine was I'd go back to my room, grab my book bag, and then I'd head to the 5th floor in the library and just start cranking out homework, studying for tests till about quarter till 11. Lights out at 11 o'clock. And before you know it, that alarm's going off again for the next day.
Coach, I wanted to talk a little bit to you about your career after the academy. I know, a lot of people obviously know that after you graduate from one of the service academies, you usually spend time serving our country. And you had a very distinguished career with the Air Force. Can you tell folks about your background and some of the places you've been and your experiences and all those good things that you made you come back and want to serve the Air Force Academy now as a coach?
Absolutely. No, great memories of, my time in the Air Force. Fellas, I really thought I was just going and I was going to stay in for 5 years. That was the commitment, and it still is at the time. But you get to the academy and you start to figure out, hey, there's some pretty good opportunities available once you graduate. And so I ended up going to pilot training. Actually, before that, I stayed back as a GA. So as a second lieutenant, I helped coach for 1 year. And then I went to pilot training in Lubbock, Texas, learned how to fly airplanes for 1 year. A great experience. Really enjoyed that. And then I was fortunate enough to get the C5 Galaxy, which is a huge transport airplane. If any of y'all have never seen a C5, you need to Google it after this broadcast is done. Very amazing airplane. So I flew that for 3 years in Dover, Delaware. Typical missions, we're going over to Europe quite a bit. Some that kind of stick out during that time frame. So you're talking 93 to 96 was Mogadishu, when things were going to heck in a handbasket down there in Mogadishu. If anybody's ever seen Black Hawk Down, very good depiction on the events that were happening during that time. One of my missions was actually taking in some of the Black Hawk helicopters that went on the search and rescue for Michael Durant whenever he got shot down. So very intimate when it comes to what was going on during that time. After Delaware, I ended up going down to Panama, and I flew a much smaller airplane, a C-27. Kind of put that one in perspective. It could hold probably about 10 troops in a Humvee. And our typical mission was supplying the radar sites in the outer exteriors of Peru, Ecuador, and Colombia. We would supply them with basically groceries. They were tracking the airplanes that did not file a flight plan and typically were trying to smuggle the drugs out of Colombia back to the United States. Flew that for 3 years down there and then transitioned back to the C5 on the West Coast in Northern California, and flying that throughout the Pacific, Hawaii, Australia, Japan. And then at that time, 9/11 happened. So I transitioned more from a peacetime scenario to wartime. And at that time, the job of the C5 was to take 2,000-pound bunker buster bombs, take them over to a small island called Diego Garcia. They would then get loaded on B-52s and B-1s, and they would drop them on the Taliban in Afghanistan. After that stint, I was still enjoying what I was doing, and ended up getting a Gulfstream 4 in Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany. So my job was flying the 4-star General around throughout Europe, back and forth to the Pentagon. Very nice airplane. Probably the least funnest airplane I've flown, though. It's very automated. So that time I've got 16 years in. I'm like, golly, I got 4 more years to retirement. And I called Coach DeBerry up at the Air Force Academy. He said, Steve, your timing's impeccable. Why don't you come back and be a military coach? All the service academies have that opportunity. And so I was just very blessed to finish off my Air Force career coaching football at the Air Force Academy.
Yeah, I think I've been a college coach at the NAIA level and D3 and USCAA and all that. Very unique story to Division I coaching, because so many coaches have to kind of go through the whole system of being a grad assistant and an assistant at different schools, and your story was being an airplane pilot, and then you get to become a Division I coach, and I just think that's so cool and such a unique dynamic that the service academies offer. their alumni, that you can come back and you can get involved in coaching and still be in the sport you love after you serve your country.
Absolutely. A great opportunity. We still have guys that are active duty right now. We have guys that have gotten out that are graduates that are on the current coaching staff. We kind of pride our staff. We have the most graduates of any coaching staff in Division I football. And that really holds for us because we can talk the talk because we've walked the walk when it comes to recruits. Things have changed, absolutely, but we've gone through a lot of the stuff that, they're going to be going through.
Well, and you talk about almost like it being a small fraternity, a family of sorts with your coaching staff, and I think this is a good place to transition that within your current role as the kind of recruitment coordinator, what does a typical day in the life look like for you?
Yeah, it's I have a smile on my face every day I go to work, guys. It's an awesome opportunity. I feel like I'm definitely giving value back to my university. From a leaders of character standpoint, and then obviously on the football field. But my typical day is we start, we're on practice 5 today. We play our first game there on Labor Day weekend on that Saturday. And so we 7:30 staff meeting. I hand out note cards to all the coaches when they come into the staff meeting to write recruits. So we're between 5 and 7 recruits for each coach that they write. After the staff meeting, the coaches break up and then they go watch the practice and start planning for the day. Meanwhile, my assistant and I go back. He's got his office. I have mine. We transition to watching. We are now on 2023, so rising juniors, to where we end up starting to watch the film. So I have the offensive guys. He has the defensive guys. My goal is to get through 50 to 60 guys a day and evaluate their film, and to make it easier on our coaches who basically are assigned to all 50 states. We don't have just a couple states because we are a very broad background when it comes to recruiting the entire United States. In the afternoon, my managers come down, student helpers, and we end up putting snacks in the meeting rooms. We'll fill up Gatorades, waters, and then they will help the coaches. Each manager is assigned to a coach to help them with their duties as far as recruiting goes. And then come home, have dinner, and before you know it, the alarm's going off again. Sounds familiar, right?
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure.
Coach, when you begin the recruiting process for prospective student athletes, the cadets there, obviously there has to be a strict standard which they can meet. Can you tell folks give some of your insight on what their grades and their character and what everything that you guys are looking for in a potential cadet?
No, absolutely. It's I don't want to say it's easy because it's not by any means, but we can kind of weed out the chaff right away when it comes to academics. So for instance, if I see a young man has on his Twitter page 2.8, I don't even waste my time looking at that huddle film because there's no way he's ever going to get into the Air Force Academy. So typically with most of the intercollegiates at the Air Force Academy, you got to realize our university is only 4,000 strong, and roughly 1,000 of those are intercollegiate athletes. So we have quite a few athletes throughout the academy. The first line of defense, I guess you could say, is the academic. So, if I'm in that 3.5 ballpark, I kind of like what I'm seeing there, and then I've got to get the transcript. So once I get the transcript, then I kind of weed out the arts and crafts, the home ec, the car mechanic, the PE classes, and really focus on the math, science, English, history, and languages. I'll run a core calculator on all those classes. And if I'm in that 3.3 to 3.5 ballpark, I know they've got a shot. And then the next thing after that is, say it's a young man that I'm looking at his film and there's definitely talent there. I will identify that young man in our computer system, which then generates basically an email to the area coach saying, hey, the recruiting office has looked at him, his grades check, and now it's up to the recruiting coach to ask the high school coach, does this young man have what it takes to succeed at the Air Force Academy when it comes to leadership and, more importantly, character? Is he a young man in his high school program that is a leader, helps out in the weight room? He's not an adversary to the team, that type of thing. And then the final line of defense is the medical portion. There's certain things that we cannot, as an Air Force and an Air Force Academy, get a recruit in for, be it asthma, ADHD medication, and certain allergies.
And you had mentioned the kind of your process of kind of disseminating information. When we had lunch, you gave me a bit of a crash course on the recruiting app that you utilize to track and evaluate your contact with recruits. And with college sports across all levels, not just at the Division I level, but I think even coaches down at the D2 and D3 level are starting to feel a little pressure from alumni and fans and things like that now as well. But there's increased pressure to perform. How valuable is the app that you guys have implemented in maintaining kind of tabs on all of your prospects and continuing to be able to keep open lines of communication with them to watch their grades, most importantly, and then their on-field play and follow up those personality traits as the time for offers and seeking appointments and things like that draws near each year?
Yeah, it's invaluable, Alex. I mean, I've just seen the evolution of technology in the 16 years that I've been back is just exponential. I mean, every single year you have something else that comes out that makes recruiting much more efficient. Specifically for us, we subscribe to 3 major databases that basically dump the recruits into our database manager. So, for instance, as I looked this morning for our 2023 recruits, I want to say we were at 9,700 total in our system. By the time spring rolls around, that number will be probably 22 to 25,000 2023 recruits that we have in our database manager. The database manager that we use is called ARMS. There's a couple that are out there, but a lot of universities are using this. Each coach has that app on their phone. Each coach has it on their laptop. And the efficiency that we are able to, one, search for a young man in our system, identify the grades, look at pictures, read the comments that the coach has from when they made a phone call to him, is just unbelievable. I mean, I showed you there at lunch and you were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe all this information. It's just an amazing process when it comes to, trying to identify, our top targets at the Air Force Academy. And it's very useful for all of us.
Coach, one of the things I can personally attest to when I was recruiting is, a lot of times today we're catering to kids and kind of pushing that. I don't want to say party school, but the more fun dynamic while kids are coming to school, and I think that is a dynamic that every school has. I mean, even the cadets at the Air Force are going to have a opportunity to grow up and have a fun experience and make relationships. Some people will find their spouse at a place like the Air Force Academy. But I've kind of always seen that the academies offer something different in regards to discipline and challenge. And I feel like kids today more than ever need a challenge. And that seems to be something that you guys are really utilizing in the recruitment process is, hey, we offer something a lot different than just the standard party fare, and just come here and play football.
Yes. And myself, as knowing really just the Air Force Academy, fellas, I'm here to tell you, I had a lot of fun in my 4 years.
I believe it. Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And I think a lot of kids don't understand that. They think like, oh, I'm going to the military. Well, yeah, but they're also helping you grow up. And part of growing up is having fun.
Yes. And it's interesting you say growing up. These young men come in as boys when they're freshmen, and 4 years later, they are very mature young men getting ready to fly multi-million-dollar airplanes or be in charge of multi-million-dollar contracts and so on and so forth. So, it's very easy when you go to class, you open up your closet and you know what you're going to wear that day.
Yeah.
Right.
From a uniform standpoint.
Which I think Alex and I that would definitely appeal to us in our early 20s. There wasn't a lot of
No, yeah, that uniforms. Yeah, once I got out of high school, I didn't have a uniform anymore. I didn't really know what to do with myself.
Right, exactly. So no, it's we're front up with recruits. It's not an easy place, but hey, I tell you what, it's seeing the light at the end of the tunnel after 4 years, and it's the old saying, guys. It's not about the next 4 years. It's about the next 40 or 50 years. And that's where, and Coach, from a recruitment standpoint, we have to break down that barrier of a military academy and let them know that, hey, it is a university. You get to play Division I football. You're going to have brothers and sisters for life, literally. And you talked about, possibly marrying somebody that you're going to school with. Absolutely. My wife and I started going out our junior year, and
I saw that in your bio. Yeah, I thought that was a great story.
Yeah, and I said, fellas, I would never ever date a cadet girl. And lo and behold, the next thing you know, we're going out our junior year, and the rest is history, as they say. But I don't know if that answered your question.
It does, and I think kids need, and I think in such a high pressure world for so many of these young people that are going through the recruitment process, and you have a lot of college coaches that are promising things that they can't deliver on, or they don't have the foresight to know that they can deliver on the promises they're making these young people. I would think more than anything, you guys at the service academies, because you're doing such a great service in figuring out, will this be a fit for this young man? Can he cut it here? That discussion that you're having with them during the recruitment process, by the time they get ready to make that decision, they're usually pretty sound in saying, you know what, I know the coach is here, I know what the expectations are, and this is for me. And I don't think that a lot of other Division I programs offer that same benefit that you guys do.
No, I think you're right. Absolutely, Coach. And where we've kind of cracked the nut on getting these young men to break down that barrier is getting them on campus. That is first and foremost. For instance, we had probably 150 to 200 of our offer young recruits were on campus this summer. And that is a tremendous amount that we've never had in the past. If we can get them onto our campus to see what the Air Force Academy is in person, and more importantly, the most important thing is hanging out with our players and letting them know that, yeah, these guys have something, that they're playing for more than football. They have a little bit of commitment before self type of thing, service before self. Not all of them, and myself included. I never wanted to, fly airplanes. I wanted to play Division I football. And that's what a lot of these recruits are doing right now. But they know they're going to have a pretty good setup after 4 years of the education. We're on par with the Ivies, guys, when it comes to, the education that we're offering. And then really what we end up, quote, selling at the end is, guaranteed job. These guys and ladies have a guaranteed job when you graduate for 5 years, for 20 years, for 35 years. And that's really a benefit in today's society, to where a lot of schools can't say that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I witnessed it firsthand with my uncle. As I mentioned, he retired from the Air Force after 23 years, went back on the GI Bill, and then got hired again by the Air Force as a civilian, and had another 15 years working for the Air Force. So he had a fantastic career. He's living out in Montana, and he's an outdoorsman. So it was the best decision he said he ever made was going into the Air Force. And you couldn't be more right in terms of delivering a career. And I always think it's funny, as boys, we always grow up playing airplanes and, playing Army and all this type of stuff in our backyard. And then when we get older, we go, oh, I want to be a football player. Well, you guys get an opportunity to combine both worlds. You can fly airplanes like you did when you were a little boy, and play football, and then get paid for it. So it's a pretty good situation.
Yeah, it's not a bad gig. Hey, fellas, we can sell the parents 99% of the time, because they know whenever they come out and we give our spiel, the briefing, the parents like, wow, this is awesome. But as I tell the young men, I said, fellas, it's got to be your decision. If your mom and dad are pressuring you to come here, you guys will not last. It has to be their decision. They have to know deep down that, yes, this is something that's going to be tough, but it's something that's going to be unbelievable when it's all said and done.
Hey, and Coach, as we get down towards the end of the show here, I just wanted to kind of toss in a little Pittsburgh portion to it for our folks here. Obviously you guys are out on the West Coast. What type of pitch, this is where I think I'll give you the floor. To give a pitch to the folks of Western Pennsylvania for young athletes and student athletes out here, in the Pittsburgh area. Why would the Air Force Academy be the choice for them? Because historically, Western Pennsylvania kids trend towards Army and Navy. What would be your pitch to them right now, just kind of something brief over the show to say, hey, you guys should take a look at us too?
No, absolutely. You guys are enemy territory for us, and I love that. I love the challenge. We have a very good coach that's in that area now, and we knew it was going to be tough whenever we had him in there, but we're starting to see some progress. Western PA football, guys, is good football.
Mm-hmm.
When I watch film, I mean they're tough. Obviously, from a weather standpoint, the competition is very good. If I'm, recruiting a young man in Western PA, the opportunities and obviously the location is where we are getting, our tough decision for those other service academies is the proximity that they have versus us out here in Colorado. I will say from a direct flight, Pittsburgh to Denver, Southwest, 3 hours and change. So that should not be a factor too much. Get mom and dad out here to watch some games. But more importantly, one, where you're going to play your football, beautiful Colorado Springs, Colorado. Two, the head coach that you're going to play your football for is unbelievable, Troy Calhoun. And then three, really what it comes down to is where you're going to serve your country after you graduate. And, we fight our wars from 35,000 feet. God bless them. We need the Army and Navy, but they're a little bit more boots on the ground or boots in the sea when it comes down to where they're going to serve their locations. You're never going to hear one of us badmouth another service academy. We're going to knock heads on the field, but we know what those young men are going to go through when they graduate. But that's what we're selling at the Air Force Academy is a great education. And then more importantly, where and what jobs you can serve your country when you graduate.
Coach, we really appreciate you coming on with us today. And I'm hoping one day when you're back in Pittsburgh, I'll get an opportunity to meet you in person. As our station continues to grow, we're Alex and I have kind of made this a little bit of a personal mission of the station to just introduce kids here and parents in the Pittsburgh area to schools they never thought they would hear. And we've really been pushing hard a lot of the service academies. So I was so thankful you could come on and just tell folks more about the great offering and the great opportunity young men have to play at the U.S. Air Force Academy.
You got it, guys. I appreciate the time. You guys, Three Rivers broadcaster, you guys are going to go places. It's unbelievable. Like you guys were talking about, just the couple months that you guys have been really rolling. I like seeing what you guys are doing out there and absolutely giving these young men an opportunity to go to that next level. I just want to say a quick shout out. I want to say hi to Sarah there, Alex, and then obviously my daughter Erin there at Dick's headquarters in Pittsburgh. Coach K, next time I'm out there, definitely let's hook up and maybe have a Yingling or something.
I'm all for it. I might have to introduce you to Duquesne.
Okay, that'll work too.
Coach, thank you again for taking the time out of your very, very busy day and now out of your evening to give us a few minutes. I really appreciate that you were willing to come on tonight. Some really great insights about life at the Academy and what the Academy can do. And I think you are quite possibly the best person that could hold this job at the Air Force Academy because of the impact it had on you and the fact that you can go to a recruit and speak to it. So, I think you have a fantastic story, a great pitch for recruits and their families. And, of course, we obviously wish you all the best of success this season. And we can't wait to see you here in Pittsburgh again.
Thanks, fellas. I appreciate it. Hey, watch us guys out there. We've got a couple big games on CBS this year. Fox Sports has picked us up from a Mountain West, but definitely appreciate the time tonight, and go Falcons.
Go Falcons.
Go Falcons. Sure. Yep. All right. Hey, thank you, Coach. You have a great night.
All right. See you guys.
All right. There is Steve Sann from the United States Air Force Academy. Let's bring us up right here. Great segment.
Yeah, and you could tell Coach is an Air Force guy, just and a coach. awesome answers, so prepared,
Yep.
and so personable. I would, if, as a young person, I would feel really honored that would be the type of coach that would be recruiting me, somebody that I could form a relationship with and get honest answers. And you know, I've been able to read coaches. I've been doing this a while. That's a person that I know is giving honest answers to families and recruits, and it has their best interest.
Absolutely. Listen, I can vouch for that from a personal standpoint. You know, having had lunch with him, he is a look you in the eye, give you a firm handshake, and he's not going to BS you.
Yep.
You know, if you're good enough and you have the grades, he'll tell you you're good enough and you have the grades. If you're not, or your personality's not a fit for the academy, he'll tell you, hey, listen, I think we gotta look our other way. But great interview. Very honored to have him on. We've had some great guests over the course of the last 8 weeks.
Yeah, and I'm working on hopefully getting another Division I coach from Seton Hall University in your neck of the woods. One of their strength
And we're
and
going
conditioning coaches.
national.
Yeah, we're getting some good guests, and we keep telling pay attention to what we're doing here. We're not just getting, guys from down the street. We're bringing in some big time coaches, and people are really waking up to what we're trying to accomplish here and believing in our vision. And we're so thankful for them for coming on and giving some time and talking to us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the most important thing is everyone that we want involved here on whether it's as a guest or on the staff, we want them to be bought into the vision. And the vision of this is to be a hometown voice that provides a national reach. And when we can go out and get folks like Coach Sann from the Air Force Academy, Coach Tominski coming in with his basketball,
Coach Gill in Arizona.
Coach Gill in Arizona, these are folks who can provide insights that can help us here, that can help parents and young players here. I think, the interview I did with Gill, I'm biased because I did the interview, and of course I think it's great. But, he gave some great answers about how to get the right mindset for your young athlete and how to manage parental expectations and manage the kids, because he is right now training. Again, we talked about it when he was on. He's training, major Division I prospects, Division II prospects. He's training down to like middle school kids.
Yeah.
And there's differing expectations and levels. Some parents are like, hey, we just want him to, explore football a little more. And if he turns out to be the starter in high school, great. And there's others where he's got one kid. I think he's going to be a senior this year. I mean, we're like Oregon State, Oregon, Arizona, Northern Arizona, all these kind of major schools that are recruiting him. And, he's working a totally different program with that young man than he is with, some of the other kids.
Definitely.
But we've had some great folks. And again, I think their insights nationally can help us here drive the sports forward in Pittsburgh, not just on the court or on the field, but off the field as well. I think that's been one of those great lessons that we've gotten from everyone, whether, again, it was Coach Tominski, Coach Gill, Coach Sann. It's the off-the-field stuff that actually is going to stick with you longer than, practicing running through cones.
Yeah.
That's just a means to an end to get a result on the court or whatever it is. The process that you're taught is what sticks with you for life. So, great show tonight.
Yeah, great show, Alex. I'm going to have you pull up our Falcons.
Let's bring them up
just
here
to close the show out. Want everybody to go on to PolishFalcons.org. Our new title sponsor, the Pittsburgh Sports Report. We're so thankful they're coming on and sponsoring our show. Alex is going to be heading up to Erie to cover a huge outing that they have, big fundraiser, golf outing. We're hoping the weather cooperates for the Falcons because they do such a wonderful job.
We're going to dreary Erie.
Yep.
You never know. You never know. That lake can always kind of mess things up. Tomorrow looks kind of iffy, but my hope is they'll at least get through the first half a day of golfing. And usually the afternoon showers tend to come into Western Pennsylvania, but hopefully we'll get through the beginning.
Our viewers are going to be hearing a lot about the Polish Falcons. We really believe in what they do, and we're really thankful that we're finally getting some big time players coming aboard here to help Three Rivers Broadcasting and believing in exactly what we're talking about, the vision of not just an internet radio station, but a full media company, and we're showing that we can do that and do it well.
I think so. Our production values are very high. Listen, I ran a small local access cable station in Allentown for several years, and we did good, but I think we've been able to take your talent, the lessons I learned there, and put those two things together where we can drive ourselves as a video production company. And we're off to a great start. I love the graphics and things like this. Put Coach Sann back up on the screen there, and even just the itinerary that that you've created in the last couple of weeks for us. I think it raises our level of professionalism. I think the broadcasts were always there from the get-go.
Yeah, I
think that was
shout out to our interns too. We gave them a night off tonight. But
yeah, we did.
They've been doing a great job, and we have another intern that's going to be joining us. Who's a senior at Penn State University, has a background in communication, so we're excited. Young people want to get involved with us.
You know what? And I'll make this pitch now to any young folks that are out there. Maybe if Billy retweeted us, I haven't checked to see if that happened tonight. But if you're a high school kid, you're going to college in Pittsburgh, or you live in Pittsburgh, even if you're out in Weirton or Wheeling, it's only like if you're in Weirton, you can get here in a half an hour to our office. So I just want to say, if you want to have a great experience where you can get in and have a hands-on internship at the ground level of a startup that is already exceeding my business plan's trajectory for hits, and the revenue is also, we're ticking up past now where I was planning on we would be out the start. You want to get in and get your hands dirty on projects where we're not going to send you downstairs to go get coffee.
No, we're looking for.
We want motivated self-starters.
We're looking
basically,
for a student videographer right now. If you want to get on, you want to start doing some video, and you're good at this, and you have a passion for it. You want to cover football. You want to cover basketball. You want to learn how to film an in-studio show. We're looking for somebody, so you can contact us. And you're not going to get better experience than working hands-on, live at a station.
Yeah, listen, Elijah gave us 7 great weeks. I'm upset that we lost in the football season because
hopefully we'll get him back for basketball.
That's what I hope, we get him back after football season, because I think he will be, staying at Robert Morris. So, I felt like the last show I texted him afterwards that he was at, I was like, man, you finally found your voice. Like, he was chiming in, and he had his opinions, and he was ready to go. I was very happy. He's done great for us, and obviously Jordan's doing a great job with all her videos. And we're going to start kind of the community spotlight. I'll be starting that with her next week. We're going to go interview Mark Coons down at the Greensburg train station. We got Donnie lined up, for an interview. So, if you want to join the team and you want to be creating content and you want to build a video reel and you want to be able to say, hey, listen, here's the work that I contributed to this as it was in its infancy and growth stage, reach out to us, threeriversbroadcasting.com. We're always looking for folks who fit our mold and really want to just jump in and take the lead on it.
Yep, I agree. Hey, great show tonight. We appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll see you guys next time on the Pittsburgh Sports Report, all on threeriversbroadcasting.com.
Pittsburgh Sports Report on Three Rivers Broadcasting. To find out more about the show, listen to previous episodes, advertise with us, or just to stalk the hosts, visit our website at threeriversbroadcasting.com. We'll see you next week.